Okay, this is basically a preview of the map that I've been working on quite recently. It is a winter map, as you can see. I'm just doing a little drive through over the main road, the only road, leaving through that map. The map has several valleys. This time you see the map from the attacker's point of view. The attackers will have several vehicles, probably armed and armored vehicles, armored vehicles. The attackers will also have a lot more respawns than the defenders. Everything you see is work in progress. The road especially will be replaced, and I will make some improvements to the frame rate, which also drops a little because of the recording software that I'm using. So the first valley, this is actually going to be the first cap zone. There is a little village in the middle of the valley, behind a river, behind a bridge. Both factions have pretty good insight on that valley, and whoever's down there is gonna get probably killed real quick, real easy. First cap zone cap time is gonna be like 6 minutes, 360 seconds, which is quite long. Keep in mind that the attackers have vehicles, the defenders do not. So I wanted this to be, I want the first cap zone to take a little longer. Up there on the left and on the right side you can see several bunkers, concrete bunkers on top of cliffs, which you will have a hard time fighting. It will be easy to defend. The defenders will be in a much better position, obviously, and the road leading up the mountain actually slows down the vehicle as well. So it slows it down to a crawl, but it never completely stops it. That way I want to make sure that vehicle crews can easily get ambushed from both sides when traveling up that road. Alternative paths on the sides, both left and right, are only accessible for infantry. So there needs to be a certain amount of communication between the squads in order to make gains on that map for the attackers. Defenders will not be able to capture back lost territory. There are several lines of defense. So we've just crossed the town, which is going to be the first line of defense, which is in... let's just fake pretend it's been captured, so we can move on. You can also see other bunkers, which are hidden. You can see one currently at 2 o'clock. There are also some little watchtowers and stuff hidden in the mountains. The map, it is quite narrow. It is long but narrow. So off to each side of the road there's only like 200-300 meters accessible. So it will play a lot different than other maps do. There are also these rare occasions where we've got like here for example a small canyon kind of passage which narrows it down again to another kill zone. So vehicles will have a hard time, but they will be necessary, I guess, for attackers in order to win. This is like another pretty big and open kill zone for vehicle crews. Going towards one of the other defense cap zones. Never mind the radar dome up there, it's actually not supposed to be there, but I wasn't aware and I didn't take it out in time, so don't mind that. This is like a... I'm not entirely sure, let's say a military outpost. That's probably going to be the name of the cap zone, which is mostly like a few containers, HESCO, barriers and stuff. And another deadly little valley coming up. Going towards one of the last cap zones on the mountains and straight ahead. It's going to be a bit harder to see what's coming up there, so I need to describe a little. Mostly destroyed buildings. Also at least one tower, which is like a factory tower kind of stuff. Most of the buildings, if not all, will be accessible. And again, the vehicle's going to slow down to crawl, especially on very fast meters of the mountain because of the slope. Defenders will probably only have unarmored Humvees for transportation, and they will have to make good use of those, because I don't want too many vehicles on that map as well. Going a bit off-road here to take a slightly better look at the they can see it at the buildings which are on top of these mountains. Sun scale is too big. Currently it's at 400%. I will downscale it to 150% probably. Also make sure that I get some HDR rendered skies in there. Road will be replaced as mentioned earlier. So the track I'm driving down, the road I'm driving down right now, leads to the defender's main, the defender's spawn zone, which obviously will be spawn protected. And there will be no real battle taking place in this little valley, in this area of the mountain, because when they've lost the last line of defense, the game will probably be over. But it just should showcase that there's a lot of traveling, and even though it's going to be a small map, probably one of the smallest maps ever, it is going to focus a lot of action on these narrow paths, narrow path between each cap zone. And I think it would be interesting both for defenders and attackers, and will probably be playable with only like 30 to 40 players, but it will be a massive blast if you go for the full scale 60, maybe even 80 or 100 players thingy. Needs a lot of optimization though, obviously. Using a landscape which is huge, but the terrain for the, or let's say the playable area, is quite limited. You will be able to see that in a moment, because I will turn on the invisible borders, the orange borders, which will make you see the borders of the map, where the map is limited to some degree. Just a moment, let me turn that on. Other effects, as snowfall for example, are a bit too much demanding on CPU and GPUs, therefore I will probably not implement them. Probably not. Or I figure out another way to do that. Here's another view on that cap zone, on the probably last line of defense cap zone on a mountain. I've made sure that there's always alternative paths leading over the sides. Like in this case, there will be one path over the far left and over the far right. So even if you're not in a vehicle, not taking the head-on way to get killed, you're going to take try it over the the sides to flank him a little. If that works. This will be a bit more like an Red Orchestra map, and a bit less like in Squad map. As mentioned earlier, never mind the radar dome; it will be gone soon, I guess. At least unless I realize if I'm allowed to use it. So there was supposed to be a tunnel entrance. Might add the tunnel in there later. Not sure yet. Some of the cliffs, some of the HESCO winter variation towers or pillboxes. These overlook mostly the flanks. Trees are pretty low poly on a distance, while they are quite good on a close distance, on close proximity. Some of the watchtowers. Bunkers, as mentioned earlier, on the cliffs overlooking the valley of the first cap zone of the little town down there. Let me just make sure that I can show you what it looks like from looking inside there, looking out. I think those orange borders are now a bit disturbing, because the impression that you get without these borders is better, but that way you can just see how limited the playable area will be, and therefore how much action will be focused straight forward into the combat that's going to take place in these narrow valleys. Let me just deactivate the borders, because they are mostly annoying, I guess. Okay, now that these are gone, looks a bit different. There's nothing much in there. Not that much stuff, just a bit of cover. I don't want players that get into the village to feel safe at any moment, therefore the amount of cover is somewhat limited. I also want the frame rate to be high. We're talking about 60 to 80 at all the time, if possible. As mentioned earlier, the recording software drops the frame rate a little. These power pylons are nice. I need to connect the power wires. Still have to do that. Might do that in a few days. Of course, attackers have a little bit of cover as well. They don't have bunkers and stuff, but they have like rocks to hide behind a few shacks and buildings and stuff, and a few fences, but mostly these rocks. So just imagine a bunch of vehicles rolling down that mountain, going straight for the first cap zone. There needs to be coordination. First wave will probably be eradicated real quick, obviously. But if we've got like smoke screens, mortars and stuff, and future versions, upcoming versions, this is gonna be interesting. Just taking a few high resolution screenshots because I'm probably going to show these in the Discord as well. So as you can see, you can pretty much use these buildings for stage your attack from distance. The attack is main. Attackers also have like a little spawn defense bunker with winter Hescos. Let me reactivate the borders real quick. And by the way, thank you very much for taking a look inside my little project. I hope you're going to see it again on the Steam Workshop in a few months, maybe weeks. We don't know. We will see. Turning them on, and goodbye. Thank you very much.